Hi, I'm Courtney Peters, and welcome to Into the Spectrum. Phil and I were just talking downstairs just a little bit ago, and we thought, well, why don't we go up and film it so all of you guys can see me explain the answer. So, Phil, what was your question?
Well, Courtney, we were all wondering, well, I was wondering, and everyone out there, what exactly is task analysis?
So, task analysis. We talked about this in a past episode with some of those self-help skills. And what it is breaking down the tasks. So I'm going to go over it with you and just do an example of one with you today. And I brought my whiteboard because when I was explaining it to Phil, I said, hold on, let me get my whiteboard. This will make it easier for me to teach and for you to understand. So it helps me just show it visually. So are you ready?
Yes, we're all ready. Please show us task analysis.
So the example that I was going to just go over is hand washing. So I'm going to write hand washing on my handy dandy whiteboard. Hand washing. And then can you help me? What are the steps to hand washing? Number 1.
Let's see. Turn on the water.
So turn on water. So I'm going to write number 1, turn on water.
But what if I accidentally turn the hot on and I burn myself?
Oh my gosh, now you're getting ridiculous. Just turn on the water. But yes, then what we would do would be to essentially make sure they don't burn themselves, turn that water off and help them turn on that cold water because you don't want it to be too hot.
So should it say turn on the cold water?
Thank you for
make the step though? It's a real question.
If you do need to break it down into further steps, then yes, definitely. So you might say turn on either the right side or the left side, whichever side it's on. It's usually the right side, but turn on the right handle or turn a knob over to the right. So yes, you would want to put that in if you need to break these steps down further. So, for today's sake, just to go over task analysis, let's just do just the basic steps. But you're right, you can break these steps down into even smaller tasks.
Okay, but the reason is because wouldn't you want to always turn on the cold water because they can burn themselves, and you would want to make sure they always just turn on the cold because if they're turning hot everywhere and then it gets really hot and they don't.
No, you're right. You're right. We want them to turn on that cold water. So yes, you can say turn on the cold water.
Okay.
I'm just making it simple, turn on water, but yes, you would want...
Just making sure.
For some, you might want it lukewarm, too, so I suppose it could be lukewarm versus cold, depending on where you live.
Yeah. Well, we live in Phoenix, so it's so hot that you can't even get cold water.
You're right. Okay, so number 1, we have turn on water. Now number 2, what's step 2? So turn on water.
The soap. Grab the soap.
Well, do you turn on the water, then grab the soap?
Oh, wet your hands.
Usually you wet hands.
Wet your hands.
Yep, so get hands wet. Okay, number 3. Turn on water, get hands wet.
And then grab the soap.
Yep.
Grab the soap.
So get soap. Okay, number 4.
Just rub it in your hands.
Good.
Rub it in your hands.
So rub hands. Great. Perfect.
Okay, and
so you rub the hands, then you have to
rinse.
Cool, perfect.
But you have to put the soap back.
Yes, you could. I'll go ahead and put just rinse hands, but yes, if you're breaking it down even further, you can add these extra steps.
Okay.
So rinse hands. And then even if you want to talk about breaking down steps, you can even talk about how you would even, for number 4, rub hands. So you could even say, rub the tops, rub the bottoms, rub in between, then rinse. So you can break that down too. So.
Rinse hands, then turn off the water.
Turn off water.
Turn off cold water. Oh, wait. Well, cold water.
So turn off the water, then you have to
dry your hands.
Dry hands, hooray! All right, so here is our task analysis of hand washing. which is you're talking about one thing to do and you're breaking it down into teachable steps. So I did the example hand washing, and Phil's going to read off the steps in a second, but know that you can do this with all things that could be broken down into steps. So it can be things like toileting, it can be things like dressing, but even moving forward, it could be things like going to the ATM machine or how to get money into your checking account. So those are things that can be broken up into steps. So anyways, so today our example is hand washing. And Phil, can you please read off the steps?
All right, here we go. Number 1 is turn on the water, cold water. And number 2, get your hands wet. Number 3, get soap, grab the soap. Number 4, rub it on your hands. Number 5, rinse them hands. Oops, water's already on. Oops. And then number 6, turn off the water. And then dry your hands.
Awesome. Love the sound effects. So that is how we broken it down. Phil had another question he was asking downstairs. Phil, what's that question?
So I was asking, what do you do? Do you teach one at a time? Do you teach like one, then the second one, and then you do those over and over? Or do you teach, how do you do it?
Right. So very good question. So he's asking, do you start here? Do you teach 2 at the same time? Do you start somewhere in the middle? How do you actually teach it? So there's different ways you actually can teach it. Of course, making it just a little bit more complicated, but there are different ways to teach it. So when you're going through this and you're teaching it step by step, one way to do it is to start at the first one and move down and teach each one. So once that's doing great, you move on to the next one. We usually say mastered, so once something is mastered, but once they're doing it great and by themselves, then you move down. There's another way, and that is called forward chaining. Now, there's something called backwards chaining, and that essentially is all you're doing is starting at the bottom and moving up.
So why would you ever want to do it backwards? That seems weird.
It does seem a little bit weird, right? But we actually use backwards chaining, starting from the bottom, often. And here's why. So you're helping them through the whole thing, and then you get to this one, because remember, after everything that we're teaching, we want to give them something that they've earned. So again, we usually call it a reinforcer. So they're usually earning something. So a lot of times it actually makes it more natural for them to earn something at the end. So if we're teaching hand washing, sometimes it's awkward to do step number 1, turn on water. They got it. Okay, here's your prize. Well, they still have to finish the rest of the stuff. So are you supposed to hand something after that first one? So sometimes it's better to go through it, prompt these, get to the end one, then they get their prize that they've earned for doing this task.
Yeah, but you said you teach it backwards, so that just still doesn't make any sense.
So you teach it. Okay, so let me go through it. So when you're doing, so you're talking about the backwards chaining one and why that one's confusing. So let's go through it. So let's say we're teaching dry hands. So this is the one we are teaching for this task. So what we're going to do is essentially, let me move this way a little bit just so you guys can see. We're going to start here, and this is the one we're going to be teaching. So then what we're doing, and let me get a different color. So what we're doing is we are prompting, I'll put a P for prompting, we are prompting all of these. So these are going to be prompt, so which could be helping them through it. So we're helping them through it here. And then we're having this one to try to be independent. So once they start doing this one independently, and then here's where they get their thing that they've earned. So once they have that one, we move up one. So essentially this is now, I'm having so many dry erase markers.
You're doing great.
Thank you. So this one, let's see how many I can hold at one time. What do you guys think? So, and this one is mastered. So So I'll put a little M there. So this is the one that they know how to do. Now this is our new target one. This is the one we're teaching. So we're going to prompt these. This one's our target. Once they're doing this independently, and then after they do this one, they know how to do it. So have them do it. So great. And now we keep moving up.
You mean have them do the last one?
So have them do the last one. Yep. So have them do it because they know how to do it. So they should be able to follow that step. Now, once they get that one, so once they can do that one all by themselves, awesome. Now that one's mastered. So now we're only prompting up to here. And now this is the one we're teaching. Do you see the pattern? So
yeah,
now,
makes sense.
Yep. So now once they get that one and they can do this one all by themselves, we are now moving up again. So that one is now mastered. And this one is our one we're teaching.
So it's so you can give them their reinforcement or prize at the end and they've done the whole thing.
Yep. And once they finished, yep.
Okay. Cool.
And so now these are being prompted. This one is now the one we're teaching. And then they're going to do these because they already know how, which is awesome. Then they can get their prize. So that is backwards chaining. So we do that a lot. And let me show you the forward chaining. Now I just messed up my numbers. Oh man. Let's see. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so now let me show you. It's the exact same thing though. So what we have is if we are teaching this one, here's the one we are teaching, we are going to have all these prompted. So now those are all going to be prompted. So these are all prompted. Now again, once we have that one, they know how to do that one all by themselves.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
So you say these are all going to be prompted. So you mean, show me the board real quick.
Yeah.
So you're saying you're teaching them turn on the water, and then after they turn on the water, and then you're going to get their hands wet, or help them get their hands wet, help them get soap, help them rub their hands, help them rinse their hands, help them drop out of them, help them dry their hands. So that's what you mean by prompting, right?
Yep, so the prompts, which we should actually make another episode on prompting alone. There are so many prompts you can use, but it's helping them through it. So it could be helping them with their hands and having them go through it with your hands. It could be a model, so you're just showing them what to do. You could be pointing to something so they know what to do. But either way, you are prompting them through it. Some BCBAs think that it should be essentially all hand over hand while going through this. So that can be a debate also for another day.
But what do you think?
Well, I say we can go ahead and use the least amount of prompts possible so they can be more independent. That's what I think. I might get in trouble with other BCBAs, but there you go.
No, you won't.
But that's how we do the forward chaining. So it's the same pattern, but starting at the top, moving down. So that is forward chaining. Oh, do you even want to know that there's a third one? Ridiculous. It's so confusing. Do you even have a guess what the third one would be?
Middle chaining.
That's a great guess. That's an awesome guess. It's called total task. Okay. So, it's random. But what it is that when you're teaching a task, your child might be able to do some of the tasks in here. So say if you want to teach it, but they already know how to do something. So they're already independent. Let's say they can already independently do this. They can independently get soap. They can independently rinse, because who doesn't love rinsing their hands? But these other ones, they don't know how to do yet. So sometimes when you see things that are in the middle, sometimes above, and they can do a few of them, you might do the total task. So essentially that's sort of going in and then out because they don't need you anymore. In, prompt, out, they don't need you anymore. So that's a little bit what you're seeing here. So this you might be prompting these right here, and those are independent. So you should scoot back a little bit and let them do it by themselves because they can do it. And then you're going through and prompting, and then you're trying to fade that prompt. Again, possibly a different episode, but essentially do a more minimal prompt as time goes on. So you might be doing it hand over hand with teaching them. Then you might be, possibly moving to a gesture or moving to a model of doing it. So you want to look at lessening that prompt you're giving. So just essentially making it more and more independent for your child. So there we go. The 3 ways to teach it that you see most often. Forward chaining, backwards chaining, total task.
Awesome.
What do you think?
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. And think that this can be used in so many tasks that can be broken down. So anything that you can break down, you can teach this way. So think, what would be better? And sometimes it does differ. Maybe they are a little bit more independent with the first one. Maybe they're a little bit more independent with the last one. So there's different ways.
Question.
Yep.
So do you always do this? Like when you're teaching everything you teach, do you break it down into steps?
Anything that can be broken down into steps, a lot of times we do break up into different tasks.
Because it makes it easier.
Because it does make it easier, and you're just essentially making sure you're teaching stuff too. So we want to make sure, are we teaching stuff? And sometimes it could be overwhelming to do it all at one time. So instead of being overwhelming and teaching it all at one time, sometimes it's just more manageable and less stress if you can teach it just one at a time. So
awesome.
Yeah, so we do that.
That makes sense.
Cool.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks for the questions. Keep them coming.
So guys, tell us what you think of this, the way we're doing it this time. I think it's pretty cool because I get to talk, and I don't know. I think it's cool. So
yeah, well, let us know down in the comments below. Of course, as always, make sure to like and subscribe. And we're going to have the disclaimer again. But after that, there is going to be the button for you to subscribe. And on the other side is going to be that video that is picked out just for you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Bye.